our first episode of The Art of Living with an amazing host, Ynge Young. I hope I'm saying that right. And yours truly, Kerri Lewis, who you know is always happy to be here. I'm so excited to be showing up today and every Tuesday at 7 to answer. Well, I'm going to ask. Ynge is going to answer the questions we have around health and wellness and how we can stay youthful and vitalized and energized as we age through different choices that we make. So, Ynge, I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay! So, okay, you are a doctor in acupuncture, if I'm not mistaken. Is this not correct?
I'm an acupuncture physician, yes,
Okay.
and a naturopath.
So, okay, good. So, first off, my first question to you would be what led you down the road to be educated in both acupuncture and naturopath, which I'll ask a little bit more about in a minute.
Well, to the acupuncture, it's a long story. It was I came to this country because of a romance that, of course, did not work out, and I did not know what to do. I was broke up that relationship, and I was sitting here, and I really had no papers, and I mean, I didn't have work papers or anything, so. But I had to do something, and I was going to go back to art that I had been doing in Venezuela, where I lived before, and was going to make a mural with a friend of mine. This was in Miami, and then I tripped and broke my wrist. Complicated, five-place breakup. So I knew there was no artwork to do, and this was also at the same time that Andrew, it was that big hurricane that came.
Yep.
And well, I had been to this acupuncture school and looked at herbs, and I said, well, I love acupuncture because I used to go for acupuncture regularly to keep my neck in shape and my body and mind in shape. It was, I think, the best thing I did. I really loved it. And I always thought, how would I ever be able to learn all those points? But anyway, I started school. And always something turned up that, I got my papers, and that's another long story. But anyway, I got my work papers, and I studied and worked at the same time, and finally graduated after 3 years as an acupuncture physician. And then much further down the road, I started. It was more like a postgraduate for acupuncture, I call it.
Yep.
So, and of course, during that time, I specialized in allergies because I realized, for example, for me, and not only for me, the traditional Chinese medicine, TCM, is considered as a garden. With the liver and the gallbladder, that's the wood. And so we have all these elements of fire, wood, water, metal, and earth.
That
And
they associate with our different body parts in traditional Chinese medicine.
yeah, the basic different systems. So the systems in Chinese medicine is, for example, a liver system, which includes liver and gallbladder. They are married or whatever, they're coupled. And
Yep.
then we have the fire is the heart and the small intestine. Earth is spleen and stomach. And metal is lung and what is it more? Crazy. And water is kidney and bladder. And lung is, how can I forget that? See,
Hey,
my a little brain freeze.
it happens.
So
I mean, you're only 86 years young.
so
So,
that's
do you know how it was established? Each element for the
Well, it has been, yeah, it is, it's such a long, I mean, it's such an old system. It's probably about 5,000 years old, even though it wasn't acupuncture like that in the beginning, but
yeah.
it developed. I think they developed also that they started to, rub certain things and they saw how it affected other parts. So it developed under many, many years. And then finally they invented, they didn't have needles from the beginning. They had fish bones, for example. Ah, can't even imagine.
But
Yes.
getting stuck with a fish bone for health, I mean, hey, if it's gonna
Well,
make you
but
feel
stick
better,
stick
I
them in
suppose.
I think that was probably pretty painful. But
Mm,
Asian people, Chinese people, Vietnamese people, all these people, they are much, much tougher, especially than Americans. I had once had I think she was from Vietnam, a woman. She said, "Don't you have thicker needles? Twirl them." Otherwise, for Americans, if little twists you do, they say, "It hurts, it hurts."
it's so funny because whenever I go to get my blood drawn, they're always like, if you're nervous about needles, look away. And I'm like, have you seen my arms? I mean, I'm covered with tattoos, but interestingly enough, you know, doctors tell me all the time people who are covered with tattoos still struggle with needles, which I find fascinating because I love watching my blood get drawn. I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
don't
kind of
care at all.
cool. But anyway,
Yeah,
we digress. So, okay. So you studied traditional Chinese medicine and you were able to learn about the different parts of our body connecting with different
yeah,
elements,
yeah. The
right?
metal, by the way, is
Much
lung and
like
large intestine. Duh. Okay.
gotcha. Yep. I love it. So, okay, what is the practice of acupuncture? So, for anybody out there who is unfamiliar or just assumes you're sticking people with needles, can you kind of elaborate on what you do as an acupuncturist and how that benefits an individual's overall
Well,
wellness?
people come for different ailments. And it is really a long list of from emotional stuff to infertility to just aches and pains in general and digestive problems. Because, as I said, we have small intestine, large intestine, stomach, the spleen, and all
Yep.
these things. The funny thing is that if we talk about diabetes, for example, which has to do with the spleen, the pancreas, in Chinese medicine, they don't have that because they don't have the pancreas. They have the gallbladder, but not the pancreas. But it's the whole system. But the system is exactly the same. It's so funny that they have managed to do a lot of things without. You look at the Western diagnosis, and okay, they had the idea. It was a clear idea of what they were doing and why.
Yeah. So it's interesting because there was no pancreas back in the day. Did that develop over
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I
evolution,
don't
or
think they
they just
knew about it.
weren't
It was just the system is living in the spleen, kind of, because that's where also where the pancreas
Yep.
is. So they went after smell of the urine and the reactions, and so they found how people could have uh, what was it called? Even forgot what that was called. I haven't done that for so long. But it's something with sweet, that the urine smelled sweet. So it was, and they knew they were affected by sugar and sweets. So it's very interesting, really, how they
Gotcha.
figured everything out.
Yeah. And so I do understand that, people can come to go to an acupuncturist for a myriad of reasons. But what is the fundamental premise? Like, what is you sticking me with a needle in my face gonna
Oh,
help
well,
me
if you
with?
say in the face, we can take, for example, I used to do facial rejuvenation, we call it. And it's really very, very effective. And you put needles on the face and so forth. But what gets better at the same time is the digestive system. So people,
Okay.
because the meridians some of them start on the face, some on the feet. But for example, the stomach starts here under the eyes and goes down, and it goes down over the neck, over the nipples, and then over the legs, and end up on the second toe. So it affects.
And so what is a
So the meridian
meridian?
are these that belong to the system. For example, if we take the stomach meridian, belongs to the organ stomach. So this is an organ system.
Okay, so it's like a
Yes.
pathway from your face into the actual
Yeah,
system that
yeah. And the spleen starts
functions.
on the
Okay,
toe and goes up. Well, it ends up on the body.
gotcha.
So so by treating these meridians, you can treat them either, if you say the stomach, if it's something they have pain in the stomach, for example. So it can be for the organ that you treat it, but it is also a lot of you can have pain on your thigh or on your knee and or your foot. That's where the meridian goes. So you can look on the pathways if it's a gallbladder bladder meridian or the stomach meridian, or so you look at the different pathways. And
Yep.
then you can also ask if there is something wrong with that specific, not wrong, but if they have some kind of uh, trouble with that organ, pain in the liver or something,
Gotcha.
whatever it is, or pain in the stomach or headaches, or so there are so many things that uh,
So what does the needle do? Does it break up
yes, it moves the
energy?
energy.
Does
It
it
moves the energy in the because when there is pain, there is something is stuck. So by using a
Yeah,
needle, you
100.
make it move. So that's why pain goes away. And of course, sometimes it doesn't happen in one
So
time, and sometimes it does. I had once a guy who came in for
yeah.
sciatica, a policeman. They're carrying a lot of heavy stuff, and he had been suffering from sciatica for quite a while. And I gave him one treatment, never saw him again until he came back. That was later. He came back. He had an autistic son, so it's another long story. And I said, "How come you didn't come back? Didn't you like the treatment?" He said, "I never had any pain again."
Touche. I love
So
that
that
so
happens, and
much.
then
So for
sometimes,
the listening
sometimes
audience,
that does not happen,
go
and
ahead.
people come back for the same thing. And then I look more into allergies. You know, so it can be often food allergies because you can look at the same thing. You look at the meridians. Okay, somebody has a pain on the shoulder. It can be the gallbladder or the large intestine. You know, all these different meridians, and then you can check if there it has to do with the digestion, because I believe.
Mm. Yeah, so we're definitely going to get into food allergies. We got lots of shows to share that. But I want to so clarifying for the listening audience and myself, the needles from acupuncture are able to break up the blocks, which is energy, which I know from my own work that energy is trapped for a myriad of reasons, including
Oh
emotional
yes.
trauma,
Hmm.
right? That isn't expressed, which then manifests into physical ailments. And so the acupuncture allows that energy to be released, similar to myofascia, which I know I get my fascia massages where they break up the energy within the fascia that covers our body, which is also known to trap energy, and like traumatic experiences, like the energy that's cultivated while we're moving through a
Yeah.
traumatic
Well, I
experience.
think
So
probably everything is in one way or other related to some kind of emotion, trauma or stress
a
or
hundred.
anything. There are so many things we go through and don't know we go through them, and maybe they don't get solved when we think we go through them.
Yeah, which is why I am a huge proponent of honoring my feelings regardless, even if I feel like I could be perceived as, or I'm overreacting. to something small, which is what I hear a lot of people say. If I need to
Yeah.
cry, I'm going to cry. If I'm going to be frustrated, I'm frustrated. And I work to not make up a story about it and just release that energy so it doesn't trap into my body. But anyway, pivoting a little bit. So then you shared with the listening audience you're a naturopath.
Yeah,
Is
that's.
that what you said?
I mean, I'm not a naturopathic doctor. I wish I were, but that's a four-year education. So this is more a build up, 18 months course I took,
Yep.
and just kind of opening the view on other stuff. It's a little bit more, in a way, you look more at genes and blood tests, and so it's a little different. It's not only
Okay.
holistic, and people today, they kind of want to see tests and proof.
I mean, for me, proof isn't
Yeah,
feeling better, but I
yeah.
totally get it, right? So, what exactly is a naturopath? So they examine the
Some
genetic
it
makeup
all
of an
depends. There are so
individual?
many different, I concentrate more on food and nutrition, and sometimes it can be due to genes, no, and you can avoid certain things if you know your genetic makeup. But for me, it's mostly nutrition and what goes around with that, digestion, nutrition, and how the brain and emotions have to do with the digestive system. It's a big thing. People don't think, it's not easy to know either. But for example, if somebody feels real bad, okay, they go and get some comfort food, mostly sugar, and well, that makes their digestive system very sad and sick. And the connection with the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in our body, that starts in the head and goes through the ear, and then it goes through uh, the face also, and then it goes down both sides of the body and end up in the digestive, in the gut. So if the gut is not feeling good, the head is not feeling good either. So I always say that when
Hmm.
people go through shrink and you get the medicine, they are looking in the wrong place.
Yeah, I will say that um there's a guy named Daniel Amen that I
Yeah,
like a lot because he is a rogue in many senses within the psychiatric world because he challenged the fact that we're so quick to offer up medication for the brain, yet it's the only part of the body that we don't scan. So we just start handing out these
yeah, yeah.
meds that alter the brain chemistry of an individual without ever really identifying um the root cause. It's kind of like trial and error, which to me is cuckoo banana pants, but whatever. So the vagus nerve, what is that exactly responsible
Oh,
for?
it
Is that
goes for
responsible
everything. It
for
goes through all the parasympathetic and the sympathetic systems. The one that, you don't have to think that you breathe, or you don't have to make your heart beat, and all these things that are uh, subconscious. And then we have the fight and flight system. So these are the two systems that the vagus nerve go through.
yeah, which would explain why there's so many people struggling with
Yes.
anxiety, because I imagine if our gut is responsible for feeding our brain, the
Yeah,
vagus nerve, and the food that we're taking in lacks
absolutely. Yes.
nutrients, then we would absolutely be impacted by that, causing us to, be in a heightened state, which our fight or flight response
Yeah.
is already
Yeah,
heightened, right?
absolutely. And I mean, there are all the fast food and processed food that most people eat, and unfortunately, the kids too. And they have no nutrients. They have a lot of toxins in them. They are not clean. They have additives and color and nothing good for the body to feel good, to feed the brain, to feel, you
Yeah,
know. And people today, they don't feel good.
they don't. So it's interesting. So I was talking to my brother-in-law. So if you're watching this, I'm sorry I'm throwing you under the bus, but I love you dearly. He's like one of the best people I know. But he was telling me, I feel fine. So why would I change my diet? And what I challenged him to is I would bet that the average American doesn't realize how
No,
crappy they feel because they've
no,
never had a clean diet. And so you hear about all these people who go overseas, they eat pasta from Italy, they drink wine, they, eat all these food and they don't have the same reactions to the food as we do in America. And oftentimes come back saying that they felt like
yes,
$100, and then we come back to the food that we take in America and we feel like crap. So I'm betting that we really have no true sense of what wellness
no,
feels like based on the food that we take in.
no, that is so true. And also here in America, so many more toxins and additives and crap is added to our food that is banned in Europe and other countries.
I know. I know, which is
Yeah.
wild to me because we seem to be okay with it.
Yeah. Well, it's people are not informed either.
It is about information, and I agree. So I shared with the listening audience on another show. Um, I just went through 24-hour fast. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I went through fast, but primarily the reason I go through fasts is because I want to build up my mid cingulate cortex, which is responsible for willpower and resilience. And so I often put myself through things that feel hard to make myself like cultivate that muscle. However, I also know there are a lot of health benefits to fasting, and I want to know what your take is on fasting and what you know about how fasting or even intermittent fasting can help support the healthy, like the wellness of our body, the organs in our body.
Well, the body needs a certain amount of time. So that, for example, the one intermittent fasting that's very good to do is don't eat after 7 o'clock and not before 12 to 14 hours later in the morning. So that, yeah.
Really?
So, and you can have, if you have dinner at 6, then if you have, you can have breakfast at 8, and it's 12 hours in between. That way the body can go in and digest, because it's something with the digestion, with all kind of the different bacteria and enzymes we have, that they eat up in the digestion different things at different times. And some of the food, it takes less time, and other foods maybe take 6 hours to get for the good bacteria and enzymes to finish digesting. So if you eat, then, for example, some people say, oh, you should eat every 2 hours. And the stomach and the digestion never get the chance to do all its job or to rest. So there are even,
Mm.
I remember there was a series when they started with this intermittent fasting. And one guy, he was going to fast for a month. He was obese. He had diabetes, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and felt like crap. He went on this month long fasting. He got rid of his overweight, he got rid of his high blood pressure, he got rid of his diabetes.
So we didn't eat for a month.
Yes. So that was strong. I
So
mean, the first 5 days, I would say they're probably the worst. At least the first three are the
yeah,
worst, and then it after 5 days it doesn't really you don't really feel it. You feel good, but it's the thing with the
I'm
first days. That's why it's so hard to start.
but how are they okay, so a month fasting, how are they getting in
Well, I
nutrients?
guess he was eating up the nutrients he had on his body. I don't really know. I don't remember if he took vitamins or something. It's very possible he did, but
Yeah,
I think it was a water fast.
just
Yeah,
plain water. Well, so okay, so that leads me to a question. I know somebody who participates in 72-hour dry fasts, which mean they take in
yeah. I don't
absolutely
really believe in
nothing.
that. I think you need water, of course.
Me too, because our brain
Yes,
needs what it's a
yes.
sponge.
So I don't really agree with that, but we all have different opinions. And my opinion is
Yeah,
drink water
no,
as
I
much
just
as you can.
yeah.
That
So,
helps for the
okay, but I
hunger
drink a
too,
gallon
because
of
often, and that's something often people they eat because they're hungry. No, they're often just thirsty. So if people want to lose
yep.
weight, don't go for food. First, have a big glass of water, wait half an hour and see what happens.
That's what I tell my kids all the time. And they joke. They're like, "Oh, mom, you always say have a glass of water." They'll say I have a headache and I say, "Well, have you drank water?"
Yes.
Because again, if we know our brain is a sponge, then we know that the sponge
Yep.
needs water to be able to
Not to break.
I
Yep,
mean, work,
absolutely. Otherwise,
right?
it
Like
falls
we
to
don't
pieces.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Okay, so again, for the listening audience, if you have any questions for Ynge is 86 years old and she's thriving, as you guys can see, and she is a myriad of different wisdom with regards to health and wellness. So you're telling me that we should intermittent fast, so we shouldn't eat
Yeah,
14
12 to
hours.
14. I mean, it depends on what the person. And some people, maybe they are used to eat late at night and early in the morning, but just try to little by little lengthen it. Eat earlier in the evening and not so late. And that helps. That
Yeah.
helps a lot for weight too, and the brain.
Well, it's also said Well, it's also said that, I mean, think about it. When we go to sleep, our body needs time to rejuvenate. But if it's working really
Yeah,
hard to digest food while we're sleeping, it's not able to shut
yeah,
down as much as it could in order to rejuvenate itself to really have those optimal
yeah.
um
That is so true. That is so true.
experience.
It's yeah. The body needs to relax and sleep and not have to work overtime by digesting food.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's pivot. So you talked about you practiced acupuncture for many years, but then you realized that certain people were continuously having
Yeah,
chronic
yeah,
issues.
I found
Would
that
you like
early on. After, so
okay.
I graduated in 95, and in 98 I started to study about allergies and started to treat allergies. And
So let's talk about that. Allergies. Are you just talking about your common I'm
it can
allergic to
be
pollen
any kind,
allergies
it can be
or
any kind, but of course what I mostly in the beginning what I saw it was, for example, they had this neck pain, and it would come back, and that's why I thought there must be something underneath. So when I started studying the allergies and starting to treating for allergies, and I look at the different meridians, the gallbladder and all these large intestine and triple, what they call the triple burner, and they all go over this area here. And So I started to look more into digestion per se and what it could be that they were allergic to. But there is a
Mm.
system. For example, I have my allergy kit that is kind of built on the same idea like another company or many companies, by the way. By that, there are certain basic allergies. Everybody is, if they're not allergic, they're sensitive to it. So you have to start those things first so that your body can start to build up. But I found, for example, I had once a guy who used to come for acupuncture like once or twice a year, mostly for his neck. And one time he came without an appointment. Somebody drove him. He had a sciatic attack. He could hardly walk. And I did 4 different acupuncture treatments. Nothing helped. So, my little brain going. And sciatica is most of the time over the gallbladder meridian that starts here and goes back and forth over the head, over the shoulder, over the back, over the butt, and down the side of the leg, and ends up on the second to the little toe. And I said, "Do you drink coffee? Because coffee is an irritant to the gallbladder." And he said, "Oh, it's
Mm.
funny that you asked that because this was, here close to Miami, and it was winter. So I think it was like 66 degrees. So it was cold. So his boss had given him a double Cuban coffee, strong. And 2 hours later, he turned and pulled down an empty box from a shelf and came like here and couldn't move. Could not move. So I treated him for allergy to coffee. And within 5 minutes, the pain was gone.
So let me ask you this, because I'm a coffee lover, Inga. Is it coffee or is
No,
it
it's the
caffeine?
coffee. No,
Or is
it's the
there a
coffee.
difference?
You can drink tea with caffeine, it doesn't matter. It's the coffee per se, unfortunately. Everybody loves coffee almost.
Ugh, in America, yeah. I mean, that's such a hard pill to swallow. So if I were to pivot from coffee to
Have it
something
once a day.
else,
Have it once a
it
day, not more.
yeah,
Especially if
I
you
know.
have, if
That's
you, I have
listen.
another patient and he used to drink coffee during the day all day long. And he had a sciatica he could not get rid of. And I told him, I said, stop
Yeah.
that coffee. And he finally did. And the sciatica went away. He still has a slight thing there. But so then it started again. I said, aha, are you drinking coffee again? He said, yeah. More than 1 cup? Yes. Well, now you know.
Yeah, well, it's true. Contrast. You got to have that contrast. Okay, so you established that this gentleman has an issue. He's having a sciatic attack based on coffee. This kind of gets into a little bit of energy work, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, you treated him for the coffee allergy
With needles and moxa
through
and all kinds of
energy
stuff.
work.
Yes.
So share with the listening audience how you heal people through your allergy kit, which is based in
Yes.
frequencies, right?
Yeah.
Energetic
So I
frequencies.
use vials that have the energy imprinted, like homeopathically imprinted into the vials. So it is, homeopathy means like cures like. So if you have an allergy to one of these things, what is in here? I can't see. And treat, you have the same energy in your body because you have the allergy to whatever this here is. I can't even see what it is. It's
So we'll
whatever it
just
is,
say
say
coffee.
coffee.
Yeah.
So then you use that same energy on your body, and the treatment is that you use this one. It worked before, but
Red
red
light
light.
therapy?
Yeah. So you use that. You shine it over the belly button, and then over the head, ears, and belly button. You go and you do that 7 rounds. You go over the head 7 times, 1, 2, and so on. So it takes about 10 minutes to do the treatment. And this makes the allergy that, you know, these waves are not there anymore, those frequencies. So you have no allergy to it anymore. And it works. I mean, it's amazing how it works.
Well, so okay, so could hypothetically the person who had sciatica, who kept drinking coffee, get treated for the algae and then just go back to drinking
Well,
coffee? Does it work that
with
way?
some things, it does, and sometimes it doesn't. I can take myself as an example. I had pain on my hip. For years I couldn't sleep on my sides, and I asked my chiropractor, and he said, "Well, you're getting old." And I said, "So why does it happen at sometimes and other times I don't feel anything?" Even though I couldn't. I mean, that was when I was walking. When I was sleeping, it was always on my side. And I had treated myself for the valves, but the thing with the hip, that all of a sudden I could just hardly walk. That's how much hip pain I had on my hips. It happened that we had a lot to do, so we went out for breakfast or for lunch 3 times in the same week into that was Italian Salvatorian restaurant, and they used to cut the bread, slice of bread thinly, and then they flattened it, and then they toasted it, hard toast. I like it hard toasted, and then with chimichurri on top of it. The third time we went in, I was fine when I came in. Sat down at the table, nothing wrong. I had 2 slices of that bread, and I didn't realize it until I got up or tried to get up from the table. I could hardly get up from the table from the pain. That's when I realized it was the wheat. So I treated myself for wheat, and it went away. But it came back, and every time I treated myself, but every time I had to treat myself more. So I realized I just had to stop to eat wheat. Not the gluten, it's the wheat. In Europe, in Israel, for example, I could eat all kinds of bread. Here I cannot.
And that is
Because the
because
wheat is hybridized, and I think now they even allowed it to be GMO, gene manipulated. And that means that it has toxins in it, and they can spray it so much more. So it's totally toxic.
so GMOs allowed the food to be sprayed more with
Yeah,
like Roundup?
they can tolerate much more. They can tolerate
Yeah.
much more. And some of
Interesting.
them have the gene is, for example, an insect. It's the gene from an insect. So if that insect comes and tries to eat the whatever has been sprayed, they explode. Their stomachs explode. So don't you think that does something to us? How can we be unaffected?
Wait a minute. The Roundup or the
No, not
chemicals that
no,
they spray
no, not
food
that. But
with?
some foods that are gene manipulated, gene
Yep.
they split it with another gene, with something else's gene. Sometimes with an insect. Sometimes they have all kinds. You have to read about. It's so many things they have played with. But one of the things is for the insects, so that the insect directly die when they go on these foods that are gene manipulated with their gene. And I mean, how can that be good for
Wow.
us? Can't we have just normal food?
Well, then one would argue, like, how do you grow enough sustainable food for the population that exists? But that's a whole
Well, but they
nother
have
can of
proven. I
worms,
mean,
which,
they have mega bugs. So there are big areas that I believe that they cannot grow on anymore. And also because they grow the same thing year after year. I mean, it's everything is so totally against nature.
Nature. Yeah. You're 100% right. Okay, well, but this is the art of living, and we want our audience to feel that they have information that can help them live well. So, what are some suggestions you have for the listening audience if they are finding themselves in either chronic pain or struggling to understand what it is they should be buying, because that's the thing, right? I reached out to you last week. I was so excited, everybody. It's like, oh, I found this candy that's sugar free, and I'm super happy because I love dark chocolate. Come to find out that sugar alcohol derived from corn, which I know corn reduces into sugar in the first place. So it's a total manipulation of the information on the ingredient package. So, what are some tips and tricks that you can offer to the listening audience that can help inform them or make that help them make more informed
Well, I think the
choices?
first they can do is to write down everything that goes into their mouth. Even, maybe have a little app or something. You just talk it into the phone so you have it there, and then you can go back and see when you feel yucky or bad or tired or good, just to figure out what foods make you feel optimal and what foods don't.
Yeah.
And of course, cut down on sugar. Sugar and wheat. Wheat is even higher on the glycemic index than sugar.
So, okay, so we talked about wheat being toxic essentially for you because of the chemicals that used to produce and the fact that it's
Well,
genetically
not only
modified.
that, it's that they spray, for example, they spray, I'm sure they spray it during they grow, when it grows also, but they spray wheat a couple of days before they harvest it so that the leaves will fall off. And that goes straight up to the kernels. And then they harvest the
Yeah.
kernels. So they are full of Roundup. Plus, wheat has a protein in it that makes it, the body turns it into something called zonulin, which is something that makes holes in the intestinal lining. So you get leaky gut.
Mm,
So there is a lot of things with wheat. I mean, if you can eat the original, organic, old fashioned wheat, if there is any to get anymore, I don't know. But at least cut down, because we were not meant to eat bread or wheat 4 or 5 times a day. And I think a lot of people do. They eat bread in the morning and then they're hungry 20 minutes after and want to eat again. Or the kids eat wheat and they are tired in the morning because it makes them sleep. So have a real breakfast, eat eggs and something else. Maybe leftovers from the day before. Chicken or even bacon is better than bread.
interesting. Well, see, you'll be very proud of me, Inga. I had a bacon hamburger tonight, but I had it wrapped in a lettuce.
Perfect. Perfect.
So, and I only ate
Yeah.
half of it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. And yet, I will say, I still felt like crap
Yeah,
because
you
that's
should
what I
probably have
decided
had
to eat
something
after.
much, much easier to digest, like little overcooked rice and a little chicken, maybe.
Is rice good for you? See, I
Well,
never
you never
know.
know. I know now they're talking so much about arsenic and blah, blah. It's hard to say, but white rice, at least, if it is overcooked and if you have a sensitive stomach or you're trying to get over something, that is very easy to digest for the digestion, for your system. Yeah.
Overcooked white rice.
If people feel
Huh.
bad or they have had some kind of stomach flu or something, to get back, it's better to have overcooked rice and maybe, you know, chicken soup.
You know what? This is on a tangent, but my ex-husband won me over to date him because I was sick in bed, and after working like a 12-hour day, he went home and made homemade chicken noodle soup and brought it to me, and I said, "Oh my god, this is love." I mean, who does that? But anyway, okay, so but going back, so we've talked and established about wheat. Let's talk about sugar. Like, is all sugar bad for you? Refined sugar, kind of give us a breakdown on why sugar is harmful to our body.
Well, it is not only sugar, but sugar raises your blood sugar, and uh, it seems like there are 8 to 9 out of 10 people that have some kind of metabolic syndrome, which means that they are either have a too big waist, or they have high blood pressure, or they have high blood sugar, high blood pressure, high blood sugar. You know, these are things you're not supposed to have. And
Yep.
the first sign really of blood sugar imbalance is a belly. If you have a belly, that's a sign that you have to start to look at what you're eating. Eat less carbs and
Yeah.
less wheat, that's definitely, and no sugar, as little sugar as possible. I use I use stevia, and sometimes I
Yep.
use other sugars like coconut sugar, um, or monk fruit. So there are a couple of other sugars that are not as bad. I mean,
So coconut sugar is okay because I did find a chocolate made
yeah,
with
use that.
coconut sugar, but it said that it reduces down to
Well, it
sugar.
probably does. I mean, it is a sugar after all, but it's not as bad as high fructose sugar or these, you know, refined sugars. Plus, sugar is also GMO, and you don't want that.
Mm. So, from my understanding, sugar causes inflammation. And like I feel it. So, I feel if I eat a lot of sugar, I feel it
Yeah,
in my fingers. Like they just kind of feel a little sore or sticky. But I always tell myself, and listen, listening audience, I'm learning right along with you. This is one of the reasons I'm here having this show is I said to Ynge, I'm like, I'm selfish. I'm capitalizing on all the wisdom you've acquired for 86 years. Um, but I imagine that that's probably making my brain inflamed if it's inflaming my
it's the same with
fingers.
wheat. Does exactly the same thing.
And then inflammation obviously is responsible for, I believe, isn't it autoimmune
For
disorders?
a
I
lot of
could be
things, yes,
wrong, but
absolutely, absolutely, and yeah,
all right.
and
So
inflamed gut is an
we've,
inflamed brain, absolutely.
yeah. So we've given the listening audience a lot of information today, not meant to scare you, just for you all to make another informed choice, right? At least to start small. And you know, for me, I always encourage my clients, don't feel like you have to hit the
No,
whole staircase. Like you just simply don't. That
yeah,
feels too much. But you know, for you, you said that some of the strategy is either reduce sweet and or sugar, not in one fell swoop, but maybe incorporating one
yeah.
small change in the morning, having a cooked breakfast rather than
Oh,
cereal,
yes,
right? Because
that
I
is the
imagine as
worst.
we eat
Yes,
cereal.
yeah, and
Yep.
also, yeah, because
Um,
it is also everything is so sweet here. People are used. People are
everything.
used to everything being sweet, and the idea is really to get yourself used to having things less sweet, and
Yeah.
so that it's more natural to get rid of those sugar cravings. And the thing with sugar craving, it's also because of candida albicans, which is overgrowth of bacteria, and uh,
Yep.
and it's a double-edged sword, you know.
Well, because Candida
Yeah.
feeds off of sugar, but when you don't feed
It
it,
makes
it
you crave,
causes you to
yes,
like,
because they're sitting down there in your intestines and
yes,
say, we are dying, we are dying, give us sugar.
yeah, 100%. So it can be really tricky. So what are your thoughts about fruit then? Just regular
Well,
old fruit.
it depends on how bad you are. Look at your tongue. If you have a big, fat, white coating on your tongue, then you have to try to eat less sugar until that disappears, you know, because that is,
Is my tongue
no,
white?
it looks pretty good.
Okay.
Looks pretty good.
No, but you know what? Like we're laughing, but it's interesting. Back in the day, right? You were telling me when you were young, when you saw the doctor, they would say, take
Yep,
off all your clothes, and they would just be able to examine like your tongue and the way your
yep.
skin looks. And, you know, and all of those are indicative of different health issues, but we don't really think about that. Even, think about toe fungus or all these different things. All of that is kind of indicators that we need to make an
Yeah,
adjustment
toe
to
fungus
what we're
is an
putting in.
overgrowth of bacteria, of candida. It's just developing so much that, and that's,
Really?
I think that's why it's so hard for people to get rid of toe fungus, because it starts in the gut, not on the toes.
Yeah, interesting. Wow. But that's the thing is starting really, really small
And be
and
conscientious about it.
going from,
Think about it.
yeah, 100%. Well, I'm just glad I don't have to give up my fruit because quite frankly, I really love
Yeah,
pineapple
they are
and
very sweet. So you
mango
just,
and
you don't have to eat the whole thing. Well, that's hard too, because your tongue gets kind of sore if you eat too much pineapple. Yeah,
what, pineapple? Oh, I know, it's tangy.
yeah, I
I
do
love
too.
it. So for the listening audience, Inga and I are super excited to give an hour of our time every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to really help you get more informed about questions you have about your health, whether it is around physical health, nutrition,
Emotional,
uh, holistic.
emotional
What's that?
health, anything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then for me again, yeah, your mental health, like strategies and practices that can help you because nothing is separate. Mind,
Absolutely.
body, spirit. What you're putting into your body it through food is impacting your emotional health, but also the reality is the experiences that we are allowing ourselves to exist in also impact our emotional health. So how can you make micro changes so that you can start to feel better, mind, body, and spirit? And so we want you to ask us questions, whether you email us, whether you message us on our social media pages, or you are comfortable enough to leave a message while we're live. We're happy to respond to any questions or thoughts or concerns you have so that this is
Yeah.
an interactive and meaningful dialogue for you, that you're getting something
Yeah.
out of it. Additionally, I would encourage you to share this video if you found it at all informative, and to let your friends know, that there are people out there who are just here to offer up wisdom. Whether you take it or leave it, there is power in learning. It took me 25 years from the time I started really studying psychologies and philosophies and theologies, put those practices into actual place so that I could experience the freedom of suffering that I had experienced for many, many years. So even if you just sit and listen and absorb without taking action, that too is helping you. So please feel free to tune in every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Is there anything you want to impart on the listening audience, Inga,
I
today?
just wish we have interactive audience. I mean, I'm looking forward to be able to talk to people, because it makes it more interesting too, with different aspects on what we can talk about. I mean, there are so many things.
100%. Yeah, and I think next week I'd love for you to share more about energy, because I think that it is on the forefront of discovery, quantum physics, and I mean there's so much information out there now. And yet it is still very misunderstood, and if not misunderstood, unknown. A lot of people have no idea what I'm
Yeah.
talking about when I talk about their
Yeah, and a lot
energetic
of people also
health
they think
and
it's
wellness.
woo woo, but I mean, can
Yeah,
you see electricity? Can you see gravity?
it's true.
And everything.
Can you alter your heartbeat? Like, I mean, I guess you can slow it down, but you're not stopping that bad
No,
boy.
no,
No,
hopefully not.
not if you want. But no, it's true. And I think it is really important to continue the conversation around energy, because it's where science is taking us anyway. If you're out there and you have resistance to the idea of us being energy and healing through energy, use Chat GPT. Ask some questions. What are these crazy ladies talking about? And you'll learn for yourself that this is a way of the future. I mean, I laugh because if you think about Star Trek way back in the 70s, right? And they had those photon
Yeah,
medical devices, which I thought was like absolutely ridiculous back when I was a little girl. My dad was watching Star Trek, but now it doesn't seem so far fetched, especially when we're looking at the
yeah,
red light therapy
yeah,
people are going to, and all these different modalities people are starting to lean into
yeah,
for optimal
yeah. And
health,
you
and
look
wealth,
at
but health.
oh, Tesla, for example, 100 years ago, 120 years ago, he said the future is frequencies. Everything is frequencies, is what he said. And Einstein said the future is in medicine is frequencies.
Yeah. So, and that was way, 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 way back. And so just keep my ask of anybody watching this is to simply keep an open mind. Even if it's to experience resistance. My favorite is when people have a resistance to what I'm sharing with them, because that's telling you that it's something for you to examine. Right? Anytime I'm like, "Ooh, that's bringing
Yeah.
up some
Mm,
some
yeah.
defensiveness in me. Well, what have I got to examine?" And just keep an open mind and see where the conversation takes you. But until next time, Inga, I just am so truly honored to be able to share this time and space with you and to learn from your 86 years of wisdom. And for the listening audience, thank you for spending an hour of your time with us. I believe in energy, and I understand that by you showing up, you're offering an energetic exchange to Inga and myself, and that is a gift that I am just beyond humbled and appreciative for. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Until next time, guys, next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And please, if you have any questions, reach out to Inga or myself, and we'll be glad to address it on the show and or via an email.